Hi guys, it's Steffi from the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with another Books Beside My Bed video. This is for the week from the 10th to the 16th of February. I read 3 books this week, 2 of which were novels, 1 was a novella. I read a total of 919 pages and my yearly reading total is up to 38 books. So this week I did better than last week, but yet still a far cry from what I would normally expect, and that's because work is kicking my butt. But that is fine because that's what happens. Every now and then things just come up. And even though I would love to be reading it on weeknights, I'm actually just far too exhausted to be doing that. And that trend is going to continue for at least the next couple of weeks. This week I am actually starting my training for the Literacy Leaders Master Trainer course, which is an initiative here in Victoria as part of the Department of Education and rolling out research-based high quality literacy teaching in schools, and I get to be trained as one of the trainers, which is really exciting for me. I actually did the course as a participant last year and I absolutely loved it, and now I get to be on the other side, which is really, really cool, but also a bit of work along with teaching. And you know, we're just gonna go with it and we're going to enjoy the moment. So I do apologize. This is going to be a super casual, hopefully relatively quick wrap up. I am going to try a slightly different format. I'm going to introduce you to the book, give you a bit of a summary of it, and then I'm going to take a leaf out of my, teaching background and do what is essentially in teaching 2 stars and a wish, which is 2 things I liked and something that I wish had been better or could have been improved on. And hopefully that will keep this relatively contained. So let's dive into it. The first book that I read this week was actually the novella, and that was Belle Halle by L.A. Ashton. I received this as an ARC from NetGalley. It was a 2018 release. I believe it was released right on the tail end of December last year. It was published by 9 Star Press and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. It is a novella that tells the story of a Valkyrie and a Japanese soldier fighting in World War II. Now, knowing your Valkyrie history, Valkyrie were normally female warriors from Norse mythology. In this, any soldier who has died in battle and has proven themselves worthy might be able to train up and become a Valkyrie. And that is the case of Sakuma, who is a former samurai who died centuries ago and became a Valkyrie and has since been ferrying the souls of dead soldiers to Valhalla so that they can rest in the Grand Hall. He is sent to retrieve the soul of Ishii, a Japanese soldier during World War II, and discovers that Ishii is quite stubborn and is refusing to relinquish his life and is determined to keep fighting this war for his masters. The two cross paths many times as Sakuma comes down to try and convince him to let go and to embrace the fact that he has a place waiting for him in a very grand place, a place that and respects his service in his country's military. The two begin to develop first a friendship and then a relationship, and it is a LGBTQIA plus romance story set in World War II, and it's got these sort of paranormal mythology roots to it, and it's really, really beautiful. So the 2 things that I absolutely loved about this novella was, 1, the language. It is beautifully told. It is very ethereal, and I suppose that's fitting because the Valkyrie are sort of these winged angels ferrying the souls of soldiers to Valhalla. And I really liked the way that the relationship between Sakuma and Ishii developed. It was sort of like that slow burn romance, except the novella is only like 68 pages long, so it never felt rushed, and it just felt like the two developing a mutual respect for one another and a trust and then a commitment to one another. And Sakuma never quite gives up on Ishii, even though by refusing to let his soul pass on each time, he's potentially risking not ever making it to Valhalla in the first place. And my wish is that it had been longer. It was really, really wonderfully told. It was just a gorgeous little story to read, and I would have happily have read a longer story to get more history into the characters and their background, and how did Sakuma become a Valkyrie and what was the path that led him there. The second book that I read this week was Deja by Lynette Noni. This is the final book in the Madoran Chronicles, which is a Lover's YA fantasy series. This is being published on the 18th of February, so the day that this video goes live, by Pantera Press, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoy this series. It is a really fantastic YA fantasy series. It's very, very easy to read. The language is not complicated at all. The world building is very, very easy to get into. You don't have a lot of really strange names for things, except for the places. The places can be quite weird. Being the 5th and final book, and there is a set of novellas that I reviewed last year, but being the 5th and final book in the main series, it is going to be very, very hard to talk about this book on its own, but I'm going to try. In Vardasia, Alexandra and her friends have to travel to Vardasia. Vardasia is the home to the Tia Orans, who are sort of this mysterious race who banished the Mayerans, the the race that are trying to take over Medora, and she's trying to barter with them for their aid in helping Medora in their battle. So it's sort of like that test and trial sort of story where she has to go through a whole bunch of trials in order to see if they'll help her. And that sort of has happened multiple times throughout the series. That's sort of the way that the series functions. I really like this book. It was a really satisfying conclusion to the series, but I'm going to go into my 2 things that I really, really loved and then the 1 thing that I wish had been just a fraction different. For the most part in this series, the books have focused on friendships rather than romantic relationships with people. But in By Deja, we get to see Alexandra finally developing a romantic relationship with another character, I'm not going to say who, and how she deals with that, because she's so used to dealing with her friendships and she's so used to trusting herself to get herself out of situations, and finally she has someone who believes in her wholeheartedly and supports her and doesn't question her in a way that is negative. The person questions her in order to help her improve and to help her grow as a person, and she needs to accept that, and I thought that was a really nice character growth arc for her in this book. Likewise, I liked how Alexandra had to face all of her past decisions. They come back to haunt her in this book quite a bit, and she has to confront them in front of other people. She's not used to talking about them. She's kept a lot of secrets and things to herself because she thought that people would judge her harshly. So suddenly everything's out in the open and she has to be able to deal with that. That was quite a nice touch because it forces her to recognize that friendship means more than just being friends with someone, and that even if someone is upset with her, it's not necessarily the end of the world, and that there's probably ways around it. And I thought that was quite a nice message in there, especially for teens. Just because you've made a mistake or you have withheld information from someone doesn't mean it's the end of the world, but it does mean that you might have to confront it at some point. The only thing I'll say that I wish had been different was that the actual By Deja sequence had been more condensed. This is quite a hefty book and it just felt a little bit drawn out in parts. It was all necessary, but I think it probably could have been worked somehow to be just a little tighter. But yes, I really enjoyed this series. I'm glad that I have read it all the way through to the end. Thank you very much to Pantera Press for the review copy. I am going to miss this world, and hopefully one day we will see characters back in this world because it is just really, really cool. And then I read Thomas Wildest and the Book of Sorrows by J.M. Bergen. This was sent to me for review by the publisher Elandrian Press. This is a 2019 release and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It is a middle grade book and it is fantasy, but it is sort of more magical realism fantasy because it's set in our world with magic, and it was a lot of fun. So this story is about 12-year-old Thomas Wildest, who is nearly turning 13. Years back, his father left, and as such, he and his mother have been living together for years, and they've sort of just developed this, very simple relationship. And his mother works quite a lot. She's a professor and she brings work home a lot. So Thomas is left up to his own devices. But right before his father left, he imparted some words onto his son, and they were that magic was real. And no matter what happens, he has to always remember that magic is real. And those words have really been a guiding force in Thomas's life, and he's been seeking ways to prove that magic is real. And then one day he stumbles across a bookshop, and there he is gifted the Book of Sorrows, which is a magical book that comes with conditions and rules for reading it. This book guides Thomas into a world that he believed existed but had never been able to prove, and that is a world of magic and magicians. And there is sort of this ongoing struggle to find these objects that contain magic but could cause massive problems for the world if they're ever found and combined and used by the wrong person. And as such, Thomas is drawn into this world. He becomes part of the solution to this situation, and it was a really, really fun middle grade fantasy book with very relatable characters. So one of the things that I absolutely loved about this is how much Thomas felt like a 12-year-old boy. He's impulsive and eager, and he goes to high school and he doesn't like the way that the bullies in the school pick on him and some of the other kids, but he's not entirely sure how to stand up to them until about partway through the book. He gets shy around the girl that he really likes, and he doesn't know how to talk to her. He talks normally with his friends, and he acknowledges that his relationship with his mother is comfortable, and yet also he wishes that sometimes it were different and that she would talk about his father more. So he just felt very real and very relatable. I also liked how fast paced this is. You get into the story straight away and you just keep reading. It is very quick and easy to get through, and I appreciate that in a book. The one thing that I do wish had happened was that some of the other characters had their histories and their past fleshed out a little bit more. We do get some snippets and some backstory on some of the characters, but it does take a while to get to there. But overall, I really enjoyed this. This is book 1 in a series. I'm very much looking forward to taking this into work and introducing it to some of my kids who are very much into fantasy adventure stories at the moment. So this is a good one. So those are the books that I read this week. In the comments below, let me know if you have read any of these books or if you're planning to. Otherwise, tell me what you have been reading over the last 7 days. I hope it's been a really great reading week for you. I hope that wherever you're in the world, you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye guys.